Space exploration. While ancient civilizations always looked up to the skies, they could not see anything past what they could find with their own eyes. This was not until the invention of the telescope in 1608, which revolutionized astronomy. Galileo made the invention of the telescope famous when he started discovering things that no one had ever dreamed about, such as sunspots, Saturn's rings, and the 4 large moons of Jupiter. Since then, astronomers have built even larger and more powerful telescopes and even have sent telescopes into space. Telescopes are instruments that can collect and focus light and other forms of electromagnetic radiation, and they can make distant objects appear larger and brighter. A refracting telescope uses convex lenses to gather and focus light. With the use of 2 convex lenses, one at each end of a long tube, the lenses can collect more light, making it easier for astronomers to see faint objects. Isaac Newton built the first reflecting telescope in 1668, which used a curved mirror to collect and focus light. This was able to focus a large amount of light under this small area. The larger the mirror, the more light the telescope can collect. The largest telescopes today are all reflecting telescopes. Radio telescopes are used to detect radio waves from objects in space. The surfaces of radio telescopes focus radio waves the way a mirror in a reflecting telescope focuses light waves. Because of Earth's atmosphere, astronomers had trouble viewing some objects in space. So the Hubble Space Telescope, which is a reflecting telescope, was sent into space and orbits Earth above the atmosphere. It has a mere 2.5 meters in diameter and can produce very detailed images. The Hubble telescope has changed how astronomers now view the universe. People have really started getting excited about space when they started seeing images, and now this led to people dreaming about traveling to space. The biggest problem about getting into space was overcoming the force of Earth's gravity. This was eventually accomplished with a rocket. A rocket is a vehicle designed to propel itself by ejecting exhaust gas from one end. When that fuel inside the rocket builds up pressure, the force from the exhaust thrusts the rocket forward. In the 1960s, the development of a powerful multi-stage rocket made it possible to send spacecraft to the moon and the solar system beyond. Today, multi-stage rockets are used to launch a wide variety of satellites and space probes. A satellite is an object that revolves around another object in space. The moon is a natural satellite of Earth. However, a spacecraft orbiting Earth is an artificial satellite. Sputnik was the first artificial satellite sent to space, and the success by the Soviets caused great alarm for the United States. The United States responded in 1958 by launching its own satellite into orbit. Later that year, the United States established a government agency in charge of its space program called the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, or NASA. NASA brought together the talents of many scientists and engineers who worked together to solve the many difficult technical problems of spaceflight. Now, some spacecraft have human crews, but most do not. A space probe is an uncrewed spacecraft sent from Earth to explore objects in space. They are usually robots that work automatically or by remote control and take pictures and gather data. Probes make it possible to collect data on trips that would be too long or too dangerous for humans. In 1961, the space race heated up even more when the Soviets launched the first human into space. Less than a month later, Americans sent astronaut Alan Shepard into space, and his spacecraft, called Freedom 7, was the first spacecraft from America. Now, while spacecraft and rockets used to launch them were only used once, there are space shuttles, which are reusable spacecraft that transport people and materials to and from space now. NASA's fleet of space shuttles began operating in 1981. Between 1964 and 1972, the United States and Soviet Union spent many unpiloted spacecraft to explore the moon. When a spacecraft called Surveyor landed on the moon, it proved that the moon had a solid surface. In July of 1969, 3 American astronauts circled the moon aboard Apollo 11. Once in orbit, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin entered a tiny spacecraft called the Eagle, and when Armstrong radioed that the Eagle had landed, cheers rang out at the NASA Space Center in Houston. A few hours later, Armstrong and Aldrin left the Eagle to explore the moon. When Armstrong first set foot on the surface, he announced, "That's one small step for man and one giant leap for mankind." After the great success of the moon landings, the question for space exploration was, well, what comes next? Scientists and public officials decided that one goal should be to build space shuttles and space stations where astronauts can live and work. In the 1980s, the United States and 15 other countries began planning the construction of the International Space Station. The first section of the station was placed into orbit in 1998, and since then, many other modules have been added. On board, astronauts and scientists from countries around the world are carrying out experiments in various fields of science, learning more about how humans adapt to space. Even though scientists and astronomers have searched, there have been no evidence of life that exists beyond Earth. Life that originates outside the Earth is called extraterrestrial life, and the study of life in the universe, which includes life on Earth and the possibility of extraterrestrial life, is called astrobiology. Investigating the conditions for life on Earth helps scientists predict where they might find life elsewhere in the solar system. The human spirit of exploration and discovery will continue as astronomers search and find planets outside the solar system and learn more about Earth-like planets and if they might provide evidence of life besides just us on Earth. We have now reached the end of this section, and it is time for you to show what you know.